period?
Well, I wasn't an editor. I simply wrote articles.
Okay.
I went to their editorial office in New York City, and I was a senior in college, and I asked them for a press pass, and I talked them into giving me a press pass. So that allowed me to get into the matches for free. And I only wrote 2 or 3 articles. There was one on Gorilla Monsoon. There was one on midget women wrestlers, and there may have been another one before I started announcing, and then I stopped writing. So yeah, that was a short period, but it was important because it got me closer to the action, not backstage. I mean, you would never, ever, ever get close to a wrestling dressing room if you weren't a wrestler.
Okay, yeah.
Never.
So you did an article on Gorilla Monsoon. Is that how he kind of became familiar with you? Because I understand that it was Gorilla Monsoon that gave you your first opportunity as a ring announcer for the states that he used to book for, part of the WWWF back in the 70s. So how did you build that connection with Gorilla Monsoon, and how did you eventually fall into being a ring announcer, Gary?
I don't believe he would have remembered me from the time that I interviewed him. But because I was writing for the magazine, I was at ringside one night. They didn't have a ring announcer. I volunteered just because the matches were, the promoter would walk up to the ring and, at the end of every match and announce the winner. And it was just making the night drag. So I'm saying, yeah, this is like a waste of time. So when he came up one time, I said to him, if you'd like, I'll sit here and just give me the microphone and I'll introduce the guys and I'll announce who wins. And he said, sure. So at the end of the night, he asked me if I had any experience, and true to all great beginning stories in wrestling, I lied to him. And I said, of course I do, sure. He said, we'll come back next week, wear a tie, we'll put you in the ring. I had no idea what I was doing, not a clue. And in fact, I didn't even wear a tie the next week. I carried the suit with me because I didn't want to be embarrassed. Like who would go to sit in the in the bleachers of a wrestling show, with a suit on. So yeah, and that's how Monsoon. He was wrestling at the time. He was also part owner of WWWF, and he had a piece of the WWWF geographically carved out where he promoted shows. And he eventually asked me if I wanted to. I didn't even know he was a part owner. I just thought he was a wrestler. That's how I knew him. And he asked me if I wanted to continue with him. So I did. And then I found out he was a producer of WWWF TV. And after I got I was broken in for 2 years, working at all kinds of local high schools, colleges, rodeo arenas, CD clubs, all kinds of auditoriums, convention halls, military bases. After 2 years of that, he asked me if I wanted to start doing the TV with him.
Yeah,
WWF TV.
And I was going to ask you about that. I mean, just after 2 years, you were the main or one of the lead ring announcers on their prime TV shows. So they're syndicated TV shows on a weekly basis. You would have been only about 24 at the time. How did you feel about it was moving so fast at such a young age? You were taking on extra responsibilities and now on TV for the WWWF at the age of 24. I mean, that must have been mind blowing at the time.
It was because it was a very powerful show, and people would recognize me in public, even though I was only like physically seen for maybe 45 seconds, an hour.
Yeah.
They didn't do any kind of close-ups on the ring announcer, and Vinny, who was the commentator for the show, never said my name. So I did introduce myself in the very beginning of every hour. And if people go to the WWE network, they can see the old All-Star wrestling shows and see exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, it was very heady because I actually had some negative experiences from the public just from the notoriety of that show. So it was a mixed bag, but it was, you're right, it was an incredible opportunity. I was with them for 11 years.
Yeah.